Rudy. Now, you don't even have to know his last name to know who Rudy is. And there's very few cartoon characters in history that can come down to just being one name like Rudy. Let's talk about Rudy. Now, this is a dude obviously from Fat Albert's gang, Cosby Kids. The one that we know for being smooth, stylish, self-confident to the point that he is just delusional, right? So in this Fat Albert world, this is the cool guy who's constantly trying to impress everybody, especially the girls. But most of the time, he ends up the punchline himself. Now, when we talk about Rudy, his swagger really masks its fragile ego, right? Rudy's obsession with appearances and approval suggests this chronic need for external validation. He measures his worth by how others react to him rather than any sense of internal self-esteem. Now, let's be honest, Rudy is not evil or malicious. He's just a textbook compensator. This is a kid using his armor as is really his outfit, right? The flashy clothes, the slick talk, the arrogance. These are all things to mask this hidden insecurity that he has. At the center of Rudy is this insecurity wrapped in performative confidence. And in this neighborhood where poverty a lot of times defines you really fast, Rudy chose to define himself before the world would. He used charm as currency, his image is his armor, but his constant need to stand out from Fat Albert and the gang signals both pride and distance. He wants community, but he fears invisibility inside of it because he wants to make sure something special about him. So he's the kind of kid, they call him pretty boy, slick, and he learned to turn that into his whole persona. So every smooth line he drops is this emotional defense mechanism, which is disguised as his charm. So in a lot of ways on this show, he represents this aspirational black youth, right? This kid who wants more out of life than what the hand that he was dealt suggests he should get. But he doesn't know how to get there without imitation. He's seeing he's watching what he sees around himself. He mimics the swagger of hustlers, the stars, the street players, right, in the magazines. So his arc often shows how style without any substance collapses. And that's a lesson that we get out of Rudy. He doesn't get punished, he gets humbled. And it just reminds kids that sometimes being cooler is not as impressive. And so in a lot of ways, Rudy is this ego of the black male experience, right? That show that, they're charming, resilient, yet constantly negotiating between authenticity and performance in a world that kind of undervalues those things. So Rudy's psychological struggle is identity versus authenticity. He wants to be admired and accepted, and this tension drives his storyline. He lying to look cool, bragging about something he can't deliver on, or ditching out on his friends. There's always a moral lesson that pulls him back to humility, showing that his yearning to be seen for who he is, not just how he looks. So he's at the heart of it. And I want to stress that Rudy is still a good person. I'm not saying Rudy's bad, and we got to understand Rudy. He's chasing the illusion of this clout. What he really is searching for is acceptance, and it still kind of scares him that maybe he doesn't get it. Luckily, he's got a good, supportive group of friends that will call you by whatever name you are. Fat, dumb, weird. You can fit in with this crew. If Rudy still existed today, this dude would definitely be an influencer. He'd be posting outfit shots, right? Like, this dude would be on the scene. We know Rudy because his storyline is really timeless. He is a persona who is built to survive in poverty. He try to shine no matter how dim his prospects are. Sometimes that mask gets a little too heavy to carry, and it's a slow rediscovery to find yourself within that and still shine. But again, we always root for Rudy like all the other guys, and he's, like I said, he made a name for himself and he stands out because of how he is. But we can really learn a lot more by Rudy by understanding why he's that way.